Good morning. Today and the next couple days we're going to work out of this book. It's by Claudia Nice. It's called Creating Textures in Pen and Ink with Watercolor. All the books that I've been using have been coming from our art lending library. And when you guys get to come back, you know, some of you want to know, oh, which book did you use? It's right in here. And so the lending library rules are really simple. You take a book, you read it, and then you bring it back. So the rules are right here. There's no checkout thing. You're a member, and so you just come and use some of the books. If you have books you want to bring after you've been cleaning out at your house and add them to the library, they'll be welcome too. All right, we'll get started. Wow, lots and lots and lots of pen and ink techniques. In a previous video, we talked about stippling, as far as how you can just put dots, and the more dots that you have, the darker it gets and the lighter it gets. We also talked about cross-hatching, where you cross the lines, and again, the more that you attach and the more that you put on, the darker it gets and the lighter it gets. And today we're going to explore some more lines: contour lines, parallel lines, crisscross, wavy, and scribble. So first of all, we just need to talk about what is a line. There's all kinds of lines. So the definition of a line is the path of a moving point. So we're going to use, again, micron pens, and I'm using an 05. There's all different kinds, but an 05 is kind of a mid-range. So if we put a dot on the paper and we move it around, so the path of a moving point, that becomes a line. All right, so we have an actual line. If you put dashes or dots in a moving space, you have an implied line, because you actually have a broken line, but our eye still follows it as if it was a line. All right, so we're going to take lines and we're just going to explore them. All right, so contour lines is when you're going to follow the contour of whatever you're drawing. So if you're doing this and you want it to kind of be like round, you can take and you make your lines to kind of follow the contour of whatever you are drawing. Maybe we're drawing an onion, but we want it to kind of look rounded. So when you have, that one's about to run out, let's get another one. And you just put more and more contour lines where you want it darker and less where you want it lighter. Okay, and we would continue on with that. I'll show you the finished one here in a little bit. Let's go over here to scribble. Scribble is just what it says. You can just take and kind of just scribble lines in here to try to fill in different spaces. And where you put more scribbles, it gets darker, and less scribbles, it gets lighter. In figure drawing, there's a whole section on scribble figure drawing. And we had to sit with a model in college and just draw scribbles. So the scribbles were, the idea was just to kind of start creating the basic shapes. And you can see that the more that you do just scribbling, the darker it gets on the edges, wherever you want your shadow to be. And it can be lighter where you want the highlights. And you just keep adding more and more. Kind of looks like the art floor kind of patinaed. All right, now wavy lines is where you're trying to create a texture, and we're going to do a little bit more of that later on, as far as we're going to do some texture to make it look like wood grain. And you can just start with kind of a line and follow it along. Maybe add some different circles in it. But you can create a texture just by the different styles of lines that you do. You can make some of your lines be lighter and some of them be thicker. They don't all even have to be the same thickness. You can make some of them to create some contrast to your lines. So you can have some wavy lines. Now the parallel lines are ones where you just do lines that are parallel to each other, but they become further apart where you want them lighter and closer together where you want them darker. So if this is our dark side, then we have more lines, parallel lines. If you want to highlight, you can have lines at the top and lines at the bottom and leave some lines that are just light, some spaces. See how you can put a highlight in there? But you just make all your lines be the same. So if you make them lighter and then darker, they can look like they're going up and down. Or you have crisscross. Crisscross is very similar to cross-hatching, but instead of like cross-hatching all the way across, we're just doing a little bit of crisscross lines like this. Just back and forth. So you're taking lines like this and then lines like this. And again, the more lines that you put in there, the darker your drawing becomes. And it adds to your shading. So pen and ink is a great thing to do when we're in a situation like we are right now, where we actually have time, because it is not a fast art form by any means. It's one that you can just do when you're just kind of relaxing, maybe watching TV, maybe you're starting off with even a picture of a person, and you just do little tiny marks. I used to say when I was doing it, well, at least I couldn't make big mistakes because I'm making little tiny marks. So and And you can just keep working your way and keep adding more and more lines to create that effect of dark versus light. All right, so I'm going to show you the professional's finished drawing of those now. As far as we've got, here is the contour lines, starting point in that. Here is the scribble and a picture showing how they use the scribble. Wavy lines, starting out with kind of your drawing, and you can add the darks and the lights. Parallel lines, where we're just starting out with straight, adding more color, what it might look like with this one. And the crisscross, where you're crisscrossing, adding the dark and that. Now again, this comes from the book called Creating Textures in Pen and Ink and Watercolor by Claudia Nice. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We're out here at our wall of art, and you can see we have some spaces left for any art that you have done at home. We hope that you're being creative. Have a good evening, and don't forget to wash your hands.